Arcadian Vanguard presents the Wrestling News in your daily wrestling newscast for Saturday, December 3rd, 2022. Good morning, I'm Mike Sempervive. We begin today with WWE SmackDown, broadcast live last night on FS1 from the Key Bank Center in Buffalo, New York. In the main event, Ricochet defeated Santos Escobar of Legado del Fantasma in the finals of the SmackDown World Cup tournament to earn a title shot against Intercontinental Champion Gunther on SmackDown in 2 weeks. Ricochet scored the pinfall after a 630 splash from the top turnbuckle to claim the cup. Gunther then emerged on the entrance stage to stare down Ricochet following his victory to end the show.
The celebration of winning the SmackDown World Cup. As the celebration ends, reality now sets in. Because 2 weeks from tonight, December 16th, Chicago, Illinois, Ricochet, Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. That's next.
The episode also saw the return to WWE of Tegan Nox, who hit the ring to save Liv Morgan from a 3-on-1 beating from Bayley and Women's Tag Team Champions Io Sky and Dakota Kai of Damage Control during an interview segment.
Everyone was afraid of when Liv charged the ring was this 3-on-1 assault. Who the? Oh my goodness!
No way!
It's Tegan Nox!
The Welsh firecracker herself!
Tegan Nox is back!
Wow!
In WWE! Tegan Nox is here, coming to the aid of Liv Morgan!
Nox was released by WWE November of last year and has not wrestled since her last WWE match on October 17, 2021 at a house show in El Paso, Texas. The opening match saw Sami Zayn pin Sheamus with an illegal assist from the Usos. Later in the evening, Sheamus ambushed the Usos in a backstage attack. The Usos will defend their tag team titles against Sheamus and Drew McIntyre on next Friday's SmackDown. In other results, Intercontinental Champion Gunther pinned Kofi Kingston and Shayna Baszler beat Emma via submission. Following the match, Shotzi and Raquel Rodriguez came out to save Emma from a post-match attack by Baszler. AEW Rampage was presented later in the evening on TNT and featured matches recorded last Wednesday night at the Dynamite taping at the Indiana Farmers Coliseum in Indianapolis. Orange Cassidy defeated QT Marshall in a lumberjack match on the show to retain his All-Atlantic Championship. This was Marshall's first singles title shot in AEW. Jeff Jarrett was in action on the show, teaming with Jay Lethal to defeat Private Party. This was Jarrett's first weekly TV match for AEW since starting with the company last month. He made his AEW in-ring debut last weekend at Full Gear. In other results, Darby Allin defeated Cole Carter of The Factory, and Athena defeated Danny Moe. The show also featured an interview by Renee Paquette with Saraya. In an update on William Regal, Regal's contract with AEW was apparently a short-term deal, and it's about to expire this month, according to a report in the Wrestling Observer newsletter. WWE sources indicated to the Observer that Regal had an out clause in his AEW contract. Reports began to circulate that Regal was headed back to WWE after an angle on Dynamite earlier this week that saw him attacked by AEW World Champion MJF and sent to the hospital, potentially as a way to permanently write him out of AEW storylines. The Observer reported that Tony Khan already knew Regal would be leaving AEW even before he booked his heel turn at Full Gear, in which he turned on Jon Moxley and helped MJF win the world title. In more WWE news, new unified WWE Tag Team Championship belts have been commissioned for the Usos to take the place of the Raw and SmackDown Championship titles they currently hold, according to the Wrestling Observer. It is not known when the new belts might be unveiled, but the Usos are set next to defend the unified titles against Elias and Matt Riddle next Monday night on Raw. They've held the SmackDown Tag Team Championship since July 18, 2021, and have been the unified Raw and SmackDown Tag Team Champions since May 20, 2022. The Usos are the longest reigning Tag Team Champions in WWE history. In some injury updates, WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns was confirmed by the Wrestling Observer to have sustained an injury to his left eardrum. The injury occurred during a spot that took place in last Saturday's Survivor Series War Games match, in which Kevin Owens slapped him across the face. Reigns' face began to bruise in the ring shortly after the slap, and he was reported to be angry backstage at what he described as an unplanned and unexpected spot. Reigns is rumored to be defending the Universal title against Owens next month at the Royal Rumble in San Antonio, Texas. Raquel Rodriguez's broken arm and dislocated elbow, as described last week on SmackDown, are reported to only be part of her storyline and not a legitimate injury, according to Fightful Select. Rodriguez was attacked backstage on SmackDown by Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey, and then described as having further injured her arm in a match with Shotzi against Baszler and Rousey later that night. WWE announced that Rodriguez would be out of action 4 to 6 weeks as a result of the supposed injury, which Rodriguez has continued to sell during her TV appearances since SmackDown. Finally, in some news from around Japan, Friday in Sapporo, Dragon Gate saw its tag team title change hands as Kai and BB Hulk defeated Dragon Dia and Madoka Kikuta to win the Open the Twin Gate Championship. It was the first of 3 consecutive nights for Dragon Gate running the Sapporo 2-in-1 Stadium. Today in the Shinjuku section of Tokyo, the Goddess of Stardom Tag Team League continued. In tournament matches, the winners were Momo Watanabe and Starlight Kid, Maika and Himeka, Nane Takahashi and Yu, Tam Nakano and Natsupoi, Saki Kashima and Fukigen Death, and Hazuki and Koguma. Current leaders of the 2 divisions are Tam Nakano and Natsupoi, and Maika and Himeka. The tournament wraps up tomorrow at the Makuhari Messe Exhibition Hall in Chiba. Also today at the Kakogawa City General Gymnasium in Hyogo, the heavyweight portion of New Japan Pro Wrestling's World Tag League continued on. Winning teams were Mark Davis and Kyle Fletcher, Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi, Evil and Yujiro Takahashi, and Tetsuya Naito and Sonata. Mikey Nichols and Shane Haste won their match by default over Bad Luck Fale and Chase Owens, as Owens has returned to America following a death in his family. He will miss the rest of the tour. Mark Davis and Kyle Fletcher currently lead the heavyweight block with 10 points. The Junior Heavyweight League returns to action tomorrow at the KDDI Ishin Hall in Yamaguchi. The tournament finals for both the Heavyweight and Junior Heavyweight Leagues will take place on December 14th at the Sun Plaza Hall in Sendai. Mark Davis and Kyle Fletcher currently lead the heavyweight blocks with 10 points. And before we leave you today, we'd like to remind you that however you consume your content, you can find the wrestling news 24 hours a day and 7 days a week across social media. On Twitter, follow us at Wrestling News AV. Our Facebook page is also Wrestling News AV. The Wrestling News can also be found on the Arcadian Vanguard YouTube page. And for those who utilize Amazon Echo devices, just tell Alexa to play the Wrestling News podcast. And remember to make sure you add podcast at the end. Once again, for daily updates, breaking news, and more, follow the Wrestling News across social media. And that's the news for today. If anything happens, we will be here to tell you about it. No clickbait, no paywall, just the Wrestling News. The Wrestling News is a division of Arcadian Vanguard, and the Wrestling Newscast is a production of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network.